All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little Golden State Warrior recap video as the Warriors beat the Spurs 118-112 on this Friday night to go to 8-9 on the year. Now, of course, the star, of course, is Steph Curry. Curry had 35 points. He hit 7 threes. He had 6 assists. The individual highlight was Gary Payton II, who came back from a foot injury and had a really cool leaping block high in the air over Victor Wembanyama in the second quarter. That made the crowd go crazy at Chase Center. This was an in-season tournament game between the Warriors and the Spurs, and the Warriors led this thing by 15 points with about 2.5 minutes to play, but then only led 112-109 after C.D. Osman's three-pointer. But Golden State ultimately would finish the game at the free throw line, and they get the win. Now, of course, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Well, Friday night was definitely a Steph Curry game. He had 35. He had hosted the Davidson team at the Warrior practice facility after Davidson lost to St. Mary's out at St. Mary's earlier on Friday. That was kind of cool of Steph, who just continues to do incredible things on and off the floor. Dario Saric had 20 points and 7 rebounds for the Warriors off the bench. Clay with 15 points and 6 assists. And the Warriors get only their second win in the last 9 games. Now, I love watching Big Victor. Victor Wembanyama is a 7'3". I don't know how you describe him. He's kind of almost like a guard. He's got guard-like skills at 7'3". And even though he's awesome, the Spurs are far from awesome at this point as they lose their 11th game in a row. The Spurs finished 0-4 in tournament group play. They did not win a single game, and they lose their 11th in a row. Devin Vassell off the bench with 24 points for the Spurs. Keldon Johnson had 22 points and 12 rebounds. Warriors came out, and if you look at their assist total, they really shared the basketball. They had 35 assists, which is a great number. Anytime you can have over 30 assists, you're doing well, really well. But the key stat in this one that kept this game close is Golden State had 24 turnovers. 24 turnovers, and those 24 turnovers led to 34 points for San Antonio, and that's really why this game was close. Now, the Warriors played without Draymond Green. He sat out the final game of his 5-game suspension for choking the Stifle Tower, Rudy Gobert. Draymond will return on Tuesday night against Sacramento. That's the final game of Group C play for the Warriors. And Kerr said that hopefully Draymond can play big minutes. It'll be good to get Draymond back. As far as this game, the Warriors held their own on the glass, but inside the Spurs were plus 18 points in the paint. So, hopefully getting Draymond Green back will help in that regard, that he will start to give them a little bit more of an interior defensive effort than what they've gotten. One of the reasons Golden State was able to win this game was they were so much better than the Spurs at the three-point line. Golden State wound up being plus 21 at the three-point line, and that was a huge difference in the ball game. So Golden State gets a nice 6-point win over the Spurs. Chris Paul with 5 points, 5 rebounds, and 10 assists off the bench. And for Golden State, they've got to beat all the bad teams, and they took care of business on Friday night. I mean, the Spurs are not one of the NBA's better teams. If the Warriors are going to find their way to the playoffs this year in any seed, you really have to beat up on the bad teams. And so they get a nice 6-point win over the Spurs. As I said, this game easily could have been a bigger blowout than it was. And if you look at the final score, you're like, well, man, game was pretty close. It really wasn't. Golden State built themselves at one point an 18-point lead, and they were about to put this thing away to the tune of a double-digit win, and then suddenly, the Spurs got hot at the end. And this is one of those games where if you bet Golden State, which I didn't, but if you did, you were probably pretty frustrated because they had a 15-point lead with 2.5 to play, and then all of a sudden, Osman hits the three, and it's a 3-point game. But ultimately, Steph and Clay would finish the game at the foul line, and Golden State gets a nice, comfortable 6-point win over the Spurs. I don't even know exactly what the spread was, but it was probably in the balance there because I think Golden State was probably more than a 6-point favorite, and they only wind up winning by 6. So if you wagered on this game, it's like, I can't bet NBA basketball anymore, but it was an entertaining game. Steph just continues to carry Golden State. I mean, it's amazing, really. And now they'll get Green back, and hopefully they can go on a little bit of a run. But, Steph Curry so far this year has just been absolutely incredible. Every time you think that he can't get better, he finds a way to up his game. When I said the good things he does on and off the floor, I don't know if you saw this, but the other day, he's got a family there. The daughter's wearing a Steph jersey. He just goes up to him before the game in the shoot around, chats him up, talks to the family, shakes everybody's hands, signs the jersey, takes pictures with the family. I mean, nobody's asking him to do any of those things. And he just kind of is cognizant of how big of a star he is, how excited fans are to see him. And, I was just thinking about the Bay Area right now between Brock Purdy, who's a humble superstar with the Niners, and Steph Curry, who's just, a very humble superstar in his own right with the Warriors. The Giants have so many good guys as well, but it's just like, it's really cool to see when the players understand that the fans, that there's a connection that the fans have to them, and they don't shine the fans, but they actually go out of their way to, do kind things for them. And then Steph, what can you say? I mean, he played at Davidson for Bob McKillop, and Davidson lost at St. Mary's earlier on Friday. And so what does Steph do? He invites the entire group out. Gives them a tour of the Warrior facility. And for those young kids, that's super exciting. And it's like, hey, they lose to St. Mary's. They do this big trip out here. They lose to St. Mary's. But, hey, Steph Curry gives them a tour of the Chase Center and the practice facility. And how cool would that probably have been for those Davidson players who look up to Steph. So, way to go, Steph Curry. I mean, what more can you say about Steph Curry? And tonight, 7 threes. I mean, the guy is just taken his game to another level, even in the twilight of his career. Golden State, as I said, plus 21 at the 3-point line, and that was a big one. And then sharing the basketball. I mean, yes, Golden State turned it over way too much. When you rely on ball movement and body movement, oftentimes you'll have big turnovers. But really, for Golden State, 35 assists, and you look at that and you say, oh, that's a great number. But 24 turnovers, which led to 34 points for San Antonio, and that was a huge part in this game as well. So Golden State's got to take better care of the basketball. They got to get Draymond back for Tuesday up in the Golden One Center against Sacramento. But for Golden State, they now get a couple days off to enjoy the holiday weekend, and they get a nice 6-point win over the San Antonio Spurs. All right, thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. And also thanks to Mojo Fantasy. Check that link in the description, and Mojo Fantasy will match you up to $100 on your first deposit. Everybody who enters into the MojoFantasy.com app or Mojo Fantasy and types in Krug in the promo code, I should say, automatically is entered into a running to win the Brock Purdy or the Nick Bosa jersey. We're still collecting people to qualify for those two jerseys. And thanks to all you guys for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.